right, so our next topic in our ecology unit is predator-prey dynamics. So a lot of times they'll show you a graph like this that shows a relationship between a particular predator and their food source, the prey. And in this particular one, this is the lynx in blue and the hare in red. Lynx is sort of like a cat, and hares are like rabbits. So one thing I want you to be aware of, there's typically going to be more prey than predators. In fact, sometimes they'll even do a double y-axis on a graph like this, where, say, the lynx are in hundreds, but the hares are in thousands, so that they can kind of line them up better. But this one didn't do that, but sometimes they will do that. The second thing I want you to be aware of is that when the prey go up, that's going to allow there to be more food for the predators. So if the rabbits have a really good season, so the rabbit population goes up, what's going to happen? The lynx population is also going to go up. But if the lynx population now goes up because they're having more babies, because there's more food available, they're going to be eating more rabbits. Well, that's going to cause the rabbit population now to go back down. And when the rabbit population goes back down, now there's not going to be as much food and there's going to be more competition between the lynx. My point is, you end up with a cyclical relationship, a cycle. Sometimes they'll ask questions about that relationship. So make sure you understand that it's really dependent upon the feeding habits of the predator. The predator is eating the prey. So the less predators, the prey will go up. The more predators, the prey will go down. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the math in this chapter about how populations can grow in size. These are formulas that are on the formula sheet. I'm not crazy about the way they have them on the formula sheet. It can be kind of confusing. So in the beginning, if we just start a brand new fresh population, as you can imagine, there's going to be lots and lots of space for growth. So that population would have the potential to grow exponentially, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc. It forms what's called a J-curve in a graph, and that's what you're seeing in this picture on the right. The thing is, as the population gets bigger and bigger, it's not going to really be able to sustain this. I mean, eventually, you're going to run out of food, you're going to run out of space. But in the beginning, especially like bacteria in a dish, they oftentimes will show this sort of exponential growth. Again, this can't realistically exist for very long. Now, there's a formula that you can use to calculate the growth rate of a population. It is the number of births minus the number of deaths over n, where n is the size of the population. Now, the formula sheet that you're given for the AP exam, it says this: R max, which is the maximum growth rate, is equal to capital B minus capital D. And they explain off to the side that that means birth rate and death rate. But a lot of times when people read the formula sheet, they don't know what they mean by birth rate and death rate, so they just subtract births minus deaths. And that's not going to give you the correct answer. So let me give you an example here. So if a population of 100 has 20 births and 5 deaths, what is R max, the growth rate? So what you're going to do to solve this, you're going to use the formula. So R max is going to be equal to, it's going to be the number of births, which in this case was 20, minus the number of deaths, which is 5, over the population size. So it's not just 20 minus 5, but it's 20 minus 5 over the size of the population. And this is going to give us the rate at which this population is growing. And so in this particular case, that's going to be 0.15. So that would be the growth rate of that population. Here's one more. If a population has 1,000 individuals, and in one generation there are 350 births and 50 deaths, what is the growth rate? So again, we're going to do 350 births minus 50 deaths over the size of the population to give us the rate. And our rate this time is going to be 0.30. All right, so that is how you would calculate R max or growth rate. And again, you would be given a formula sheet, but I believe this formula, the way it's written, can be a little confusing. So make sure it's not just births minus deaths, it's births minus deaths over the size of the population. Okay, now exponential growth. So remember that J curve I showed you on that graph. We can calculate how many more individuals there will be in the next generation if a population is going through exponential growth. So this is what the formula sheet says. Delta N, the change in size over time, is going to be equal to R max, that's the growth rate, times N, the size of the population. Again, I find this, the way this is written, it tends to confuse people. People want to put in numbers for delta N over delta T. But really what they're trying to say on the formula sheet is this. The number of new individuals is going to be equal to R max times N. That's it. So to figure out how many individuals new individuals there'll be next generation, you just multiply the growth rate times the population size. You're not plugging in the change in size or the change in time. That's the triangle delta. So let me show you an example. A population of 200 with a growth rate of 0.15, how many new individuals will we expect in the next generation? So very simple. The number of new individuals, delta N over delta T, the change in the population size, is going to be equal to 0.15 times N, our population size of 200. When you work this out, we are going to expect to get 30 new individuals in the population. That's not the new population size, that's how many new individuals. So to get the new population size, our original population was 200. We're going to add to that the 30 new individuals. So in our next generation, we would expect 230 individuals. Be careful and pay attention to what they ask you. If they just ask you how many new individuals, then you're just plugging into this formula. But if they ask you what will the size of the population be, you have to then add that number to the original population size to get the new population size. All right, here's one more. A population experiencing exponential growth goes from 250 to 301 generation. What is R max? Okay, so here's our formula. It was the number of new individuals is equal to R max times N, N being the original population size. So how many new individuals do we have? Well, we went from 250 to 300. So that means our population grew by 50 individuals, right? 300 minus 250 gives me 50. So 50 is equal to R max, which is what we're solving for, times our original population size, which in this case was 250. Well, if we solve for R max, so we would do 50 divided by 250, then our growth rate for this population would be 0.2. So that's how you could actually solve for the rate when you're given the change in the population size, you get the number of new individuals, and you were given the original population size. Okay, now it turns out populations really cannot grow exponentially for very long. See the J curve here, but now when we get to here, this is starting to slow down. Why is it slowing down? Because as time progresses, we're running out of space, we're running out of food, waste is building up. So any particular area will have what's called a carrying capacity, and it's represented by the letter K. It's the maximum number of individuals that particular environment can support. And in reality, the population is not going to stay at that exact level, right? It's probably going to fluctuate a little higher some years, a little lower other years, but K is the maximum number that that particular environment can support in that population. And that's called carrying capacity. You could be asked to label that on a graph. So this would be exponential growth right here. It's growing as fast as it can. This would be where the growth is starting to slow down, where the density dependent factors are coming in. And then this represents carrying capacity. Sometimes it's a dotted line because, again, in reality, the population is not going to stay at exactly that number, but it's going to fluctuate around that. Sometimes they call this an S curve. So we had your J curve, and then this is more of a S curve. And here's the picture. So this is what exponential growth would look like, but in reality, in this particular example, K is 1,500, so the population sort of stabilizes around 1,500 individuals. Again, in real life, it would do more like this. And this can change, by the way. K could change. Deforestation could knock out part of the environment. Now there's a new K. So now that population will actually decline over the next couple of years because now there's more competition because we've changed their environment. All right, so here's some the formula for logistic growth. Now again, the way they write it on the formula sheet is a little confusing. They write delta N over delta T, the change in size, that's what that represents, is equal to R max times N was just the size of our population, times K minus N over K. It's really just plugging in numbers. They're going to give you the numbers. So the population has 200. That's N. The growth rate is R max is 0.15 and K is 500. What will be the population size next year? So remember, the answer that this is going to give you is not the population size for next year. It's actually going to be how many new individuals you're going to have the next year. So the number of new individuals is going to be equal to 0.15 times 200. That's our R max times N times K minus N over K. So 500 minus 200 over 500. Notice that the closer your population gets to K, it's going to make our answer smaller and smaller and smaller. So when you work this out, I believe you get 18 individuals. So the new population size would be 218 individuals. The original population plus the 18 additional individuals. Now, watch if we do this, but we change K to 250. So we're going to do the same problem. So we still have 0.15 as our growth rate. We have 200 individuals in the population, but this time K is 250. So 250 minus 200 over 250. This time, when we work this out, the number of new individuals is only approximately 6. In other words, our new population size is only 206. Why? Because now, if you notice in this problem, our original population is much closer to what the environment can support. So it slows down the growth. That's those density-dependent factors. All right, this last problem, I saw one like this on an AP exam. So they give you N and K, and actually they give you N before and after and K, and they want R max. This is a little bit harder. So it's R times, so remember, this was our formula. So first of all, how many new individuals did we have? So we have 420, and we started with 400. So the number of new individuals must have been 20. So we're going to do this. 20 is equal to, we don't know what R max is, times N, that's going to be our original population size of 400, times K minus N over K. But this time we're solving right here for R max. So what I would do is work out the right side and then divide 20 divided by that right side. And when you do that, you're going to get an answer. I don't have the time to work this out in this particular video. You're going to get an answer of 0.25. So that's how you would solve a problem like that one. All right, our last formula, and this is also on the formula sheet, is called Simpson's Diversity Index. Now, this is a measure of how healthy a community or an ecosystem is. The higher the number, the better. The idea is it's going to give you a number between 0 and 1. The closer to 1, the more likely that that ecosystem could survive traumatic events, things like that. So it's just a healthier ecosystem. So here's the formula over here. It's 1 minus the sum of the number of individuals of each species over the total number in the population squared. So let me show you. This looks kind of confusing, but it's actually pretty easy when you work it out. It just takes a little bit of time. I have seen this on the AP exam. I think this actual question was on an AP exam. So here's what you would do. So it would be 1 minus, and then it would be 20 over 68 squared plus 34 over 68 squared plus 4 over 68 squared plus 10 over 68 squared. Sorry, that's really sloppy. And then you do 1 minus that. So it's 1 minus the number of individuals of each species over the total number of individuals in the ecosystem. And in this particular case, if you work this out correctly, you're going to get 0.64.